Guys, this week just got a whole lot tougher. Life marches on, and I think maybe that's the title of week 2 for Story Detective's little Nano cabin. We have had everything from day jobs to 4th of July holiday to life stuff in general just converging on all of us this week and making things more difficult. Sometimes I think that Murphy's Law walks hand in hand with NaNoWriMo, because once you set a plan for something like this, whatever can go wrong usually will. I've been so busy with Camp NaNoWriMo that it's been a few videos since the last 9 people I've shouted out. Here are 9 more. Help a fellow creator by subscribing and making a difference. I will leave links to all their channels in the description box below. Support your community and shout it to the 9s. Life doesn't understand. I've had trouble getting started, trouble getting my quota done each day, and I'm used to meeting deadlines. Half of my life was devoted to meeting deadlines. It's a little different when you're getting paid for it and when you're trying to do something that's more of a personal goal and life takes over. It took over in the form of my shoulder, which it got very hot and humid here lately, and I think that was a turning point because the pain went beyond control to function normally. I went to the doctor and they're scheduling some type of shots. I don't know about you guys, but needles are just one of my favorite things. This makes me just more determined. Before the end of this week, I wanted to be at the midpoint of my story. The second half of my story has a lot of holes that still need to be filled in, and that alone presents its own difficulty that I'm trying to head off. Last week I didn't meet my challenge. This week's challenge has to be even bigger. I have a theory that if you set your sights here, you'll land somewhere between the middle and that goal. I have 4,540 words to go. I'm going to work in intervals, beginning with 1 or 2 30-minute sprints to get in gear. Then I'm going to step that up to about an hour. Between that, I'm going to use these tools that I used in my writing tools for plotting Camp NaNoWriMo. Let the cards and whatever they're meaning inform my writing. I also switched from my computer to my iPad because I think switching keyboards is sometimes important to keeping things fresh. A different keyboard gives me a different feeling. Okay, the first tool that I'm going to use off the top of the pile is Roger Van Oak's Creative Whack Pack. This was designed to jar your creativity, whether you're working on a project like this or whether you're in a business meeting. It helps you to think of the possibilities. These shorter ones I'm going to read. On the longer ones that take several pages, I'm going to read it myself and then summarize what they are before I begin the session. This is Change Viewpoints. Long ago, a curious plague struck a village. When afflicted, its victims went into a death-like coma, and most died within a day. The problem was the villagers couldn't tell a victim was dead or alive. After discovering that someone had been buried alive, an alarmed town council convened. The majority, hoping to save lives, voted to put food and water in every coffin. Well, this is kind of grim. Another group prompted a cheaper solution. Implant a stake in every coffin lid directly over the victim's heart. When closed, all doubts about the victim's condition would vanish. What differentiated the solutions were the questions used to find, whereas the first group asked, what if we bury somebody alive? And the second group asked, how can we make sure everybody we bury is dead? Remember, the second assault on the same problem should come from a totally different direction. How can you change your viewpoint? I will assault my problems from different views in this scene, and I'll try not to bury anyone alive. Life isn't perfect. We all trip and fall. Sometimes we can get right back up again. Not every circumstance is equal. And even giving the same circumstance to a group of people, there would be variations on how each of us come to terms with it. I think most of life is about finding our balance, and that often requires separating fact from fiction. We've created a lot of cultural myths. Work 25 hours a day. There's never enough time. Multitasking. Who does that serve, really? Maybe it's supposed to make people harder workers. Dishearten everybody because we can't learn fast enough. It discourages everything but speeding through life on fast forward, grabbing a few pieces as we fly through, and rarely developing anything but anxiety. Okay, first round is over, and I got 602 words in 30 minutes. I took a little break, and I got on to picking my next card. Picked from the observation deck this time, and what I got was combine elements. It's too long to read all of it, but it's about taking different elements from different pieces, combining them in a way that fuels our story. And as writers, we do that all the time anyway, but it's almost like the little game where you take a book, a crayon, and a rock, and you have to use it in your story. And it gave examples of different writers who took things like an inanimate object or a puzzle or something technical and combined it with a theme from a poem to write articles or write their own poetry. And I'm going to go straight into the hour. I may not have warmed up perfectly in the half-hour section that I just did, but I'm going to move into the hour and give myself a little more time and just dive into this. If art and life model each other, then as creators, we actually have a better understanding of life than most people. Our creative projects, like life, doesn't happen instantly. There's movement, and there's periods of rest, contemplation. Our brains need time to process. We aren't robots. Consider how much better our writing becomes with time and practice. How our heroes need to face great odds in order to be the kind of characters everyone loves. It may not be as much fun to deal with problems in real life as in fiction, but doesn't everything go into making us who we are and who we hope to become? We read and write to learn, to grow, to share. Such is the process of our own becoming. This round took me more than an hour. It worked for closer to an hour and a half. I ended up getting 1,214 words, which was only a little over twice what I did in the 30 minutes. So first I was sort of like, putting it together with the first 602. I've got 1,816 words. So that's closing on 2,000. It's not half of what I need, but it's more than I initially thought. I also picked from the next thing, which was Stones from the Muse. What I picked from there was gavel. And it represented judgment in your work, criticism, who's holding the gavel over your writing. And if you're not doing it, then who is? Who's stopping you? Who's being overly critical? We can be overly critical of ourselves, though. Looking at it for the scene that I'm doing in the work, I guess the idea would be who's holding the gavel in this particular scene. Maybe it's not the person who suspects they're in control. Maybe it's the other person manipulating them. I brought my Kindle tablet over to sign into Camp Nano site, and I left a message if anyone wants to do sprints. I've also switched to water instead of coffee, and it's time for round 3. If you're facing a setback this month, in your writing or in life in general, don't create a precedent for a bad repetitive cycle. Don't browbeat yourself. Forgive yourself, and just pick up where you left off whenever you can. Consider that a delay might prove useful to the thought process. Don't compare yourself to others. We're all working at different levels. Some people have been at it longer. That's confirmation that time and practice actually helps. Other people, especially on the internet, want to present themselves as perfect. We don't always know the backstory. Goals are great things to have, and yours is just as important as the next person's. Real success, however, is in learning to enjoy the journey and remembering to encourage those we meet along the way. This last round was not exactly as fruitful. I got 877 words. This puts me at a grand total of 2,693 words with 1,847 to go to reach goal. Now I did get a little over 1,800 words in the middle rounds. It's possible if I get a good round that maybe I can get this thing down. I did pick a card. We are back full circle to the creative whack pack. In 1866, an Iowa farmer watched the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad near his fields. After seeing the track laid and a locomotive steam through, he thought, so that's what railroading is all about, tracks and trains. What didn't he see? That he could get his products to more markets more quickly, and that once there, they would have to compete against products from many more places. That people could travel from coast to coast in less than a week. That more ideas would be shared, and that different people would meet and get married. He saw the steel and the wheels, but he didn't see the consequences. What are the larger implications of your idea? We will see as the round continues. Also, no one has been in my cabin all day long. No sprints with other people. I'm pretty much on my own today. I think today's vlog is over. You have to kind of know when it's time to fold. I ended up getting 3,343 words for the day, which is a little bit less than I got last week. It doesn't quite get me to the midpoint. It's close. 1,197 words away from the midpoint. Still a win. I am not going to complain. I hope you're enjoying these weekly NaNoWriMo challenges, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And I will see you again next time, and until then, keep those keyboards clacking.